We are live. Fantastic. Move that over here. Been a couple minutes since we went live. I don't know. She hasn't been that long. I think about it.
Hopefully we can get people to show up since it's been.
Well, it's a movie. It's only been 5 days. Not super long. Just feels longer.
Was that the Stone Roses?
Yes.
You guys got to do my request now. As soon as Cole gets back, I'm sending like 3 requests in.
Shit. Give you the homie discount. Alright. Grab this. Copy that. Paste. Oh, Alex, you got a Twitter account?
Yeah.
Link that shit.
Why not?
Alright. Gotta hold my eyes open. Give a small shout out to the boy. Oh yeah, we already been following you. That's dope. Okay. All right. I don't know how many people we'll get, so we can probably just start the recording.
Yeah.
Just give me a second to do one thing real fast. Okay. Let's do it. What's up, Red to Upset? How are you, man? All right. Fellers, let's begin. What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the 3 Idiots Talking Podcast. We are back with another video. It has been a minute, I know, since we last had a live stream with you guys, or actually, I think we did do a recent upload a couple days ago, so it hasn't been that long in the uploads, but we're back. We have a guest featuring with us today on today's podcast, our good friend Alex. He has been with us. If you are a long-term viewer, you've probably seen him once before. He's been on here a couple times. Alex, say hello to the boys.
What's up, idiots?
So Alex here, we've actually reviewed his album, oh my god, Small Help, thank you. Yes, we went and reviewed his album. Go check out our review. Great artist, up and coming young star right here. Look at all those guitars. He knows what he's doing. Anyway, today we have a special video. Unfortunately, Cole is out of the state and unable to record with us today. So we brought in our friend Alex here because he has watched the new Bob Dylan biopic movie called A Complete Unknown, starring Timothée Chalamet. We all 3 watched it, and we wanted to give our own opinion on this because we had reviewed all the trailers beforehand, and I'm gonna start playing the trailer real quick for you guys who are watching. But we reviewed all the trailers beforehand. We were all very excited about this movie coming out. We thought it had a lot of potential, especially with a young actor who like Timothée Chalamet, who's got a lot of hype coming up. He's been in a lot of big movies and he's had a lot of great roles. We were very excited and also a little nervous to see how he would do playing Bob Dylan. And we all wanted to give our review and our opinion on it, how accurate it was, how close to it was. Did he do Bob Dylan justice, and did the movie do Bob Dylan's life justice? Are we going to give out spoilers? We are. The movie's been out for long enough. I think if you don't want to, I guess I'll put a giant spoiler warning right now. If you do not want any more spoilers, do not continue past this video or this point. Otherwise, it doesn't come out to the end of the month in Australia. Well, Nathan, there will be some spoilers in here, so you can either watch this after it comes out or continue watching it. But there will be some spoilers, just letting you know. But if you know anything about Bob Dylan's life, to be honest, it won't be that much of a spoiler because it pretty much goes over the entirety of his life. Outside of that, gotta bounce. That's fine, Nathan. Outside of that, we just wanted to give a quick review of this and talk about the movie and what we thought. So let's first go over it. do you guys want to just give your initial thoughts about, first of all, give your initial thoughts what you had going into the movie real quick. What did you think? I know, Noah, you were not as high as it on everyone else was, because I think you didn't know if Chalamet or Timothy, let's just call him Timothy, would do Dylan justice, especially the voice. He's got a very unique voice. Yeah. What were your thoughts going into the movie?
I knew acting-wise it was going to be good. I feel like that's kind of a given with him at this point, but
yeah, let me turn you up a bit.
Bob Dylan is such a unique person,
yeah,
and an artist, to the point where I feel like it would be really difficult to replicate. Probably one of the hardest that they could have picked from that is deserving of a biopic. So yeah, I was just very worried about how they would portray him and how well they would do it.
Yeah, I also I didn't have any concerns about Timmy. You know, at this point, he's kind of the guy. So if he takes a role, you expect him to nail it.
Yeah.
I did kind of think, you know, with there being so many musical biopics these days, my concern was like, will this be just another one? Will this be average?
Another flash in a pan type of biopic where you forget about
it comes and goes. People care for a week or two, and then it's So, but you know, we'll get into it. But I was pleasantly surprised.
Okay, and I think I had the highest expectations because I've been following. I mean, like these guys have already said, Timothy's a great actor, and I think he's probably one of the best young actors there is right now. And we all thought he would be a good role, but would he get the little intuits, you know, the small things, the details, would he get all that right? And would the movie get it right? You know, the whole life that Bob Dylan lived and how he got started, because there's a lot of tiny details that if you don't get right, it can be pretty detrimental to the movie. And like Alex said, there's been a lot of music biopics, especially. There's even been some biopics of some like just historic figures recently that people, they put it out, they hype it up, and then it comes out and everyone forgets about it. And I was really hoping that with you know, Timothy being the main guy here, that he would give a performance that would be worthy of remembering. So yeah, like Alex said, we're going to talk a bit more about it, but I agree that I was pretty hyped up for it, though. I had big expectations. I had high expectations. Okay, so let's go into what the movie actually went about. So we started with Bob Dylan completely. I mean, it makes sense, the title. He was completely unknown at the time, right? We go into the movie. He's going to meet Woody Guthrie. He had come in from New Jersey. He's coming to meet Woody Guthrie. Now, I didn't know much about Woody Guthrie. Apparently, he was a super famous folk singer at the time, or at one point in time. Noah probably knows more about him than I do. But he went in, he met Woody Guthrie, and that meeting of Woody Guthrie just lit a match under Timothy. Woody Guthrie loved what he saw. I mean, he was in a hospital, but he loved what he saw. And he met Pete Seeger, I think is his name as well. Yeah. And they took him in, and they started bringing Timothy to a bunch of underground clubs in New York and getting him introduced into the New York music scene. And as they started doing it and more people started showing up to these clubs, and a couple studio executives found him and saw him, and they brought him into CBS studio and started having him record covers for albums. And that was his first album, was a cover album where he basically did no original works. That was the whole point of the movie. They wanted the manager, his manager, and some of the people like Pete Seeger and some others wanted him to start doing original works, and because they felt he was an incredibly talented, you know, writer, but they weren't letting him do it. And so they kept doing covers because they called it, they wanted him to be the young person of folk music, essentially. And once he started getting more and more popular, he basically started introducing his own music, and he started writing his own songs. And as that happened and progressed more and more, then he put out his first debut album, which was I believe all original works, although Noah, correct me if I'm wrong about that.
His debut album? That's the one.
Sorry, not the debut, the second one.
The second one, I believe it's all original.
Yeah, I believe it's all original.
Too, but it was much more original stuff than the first album, which only had like maybe 2 or 3 original songs. Yeah,
and I should also mention, because I did gloss over it a bit, this was at the exact same point he put out the second album, which was a bunch of originals plus like maybe some covers. He also met Joan Baez, which she became a major key figure in the early career of his life, because she was the one who basically told him, you need to start making and writing your original music. You need to start putting that on tape and recording it. And so once he did meet her, I could definitely tell you could tell where the inspiration to actually say, no, I'm going to start putting my own recorded written music, my own original stuff, and I'm going to start recording that. I don't give a fuck about your covers anymore. He also had his girlfriend, Sylvie, at the time is what he called her, and she was also trying to get him to do that as well. And then he put out his album Freewheelin' by Bob Dylan, and
Number 2.
yes, album number 2. And once that came out, it just blew up the folk scene entirely. I mean, he was the guy in folk music. He started going to a film festival in New Jersey called... No, sorry, he went to a film festival in Newport Folk Festival. Thank you. He also went to one called Monterey Folk Festival, and he just, as soon as he appeared on stage, they just loved him. At least that's how the movie presented it, and they just went crazy for him. He even started writing his pen pal Johnny Cash at this point, where Johnny Cash had actually heard his demo and heard his music and thought. There was a quote in the movie, a line in the movie, he said that it was his most prized possession, one of his songs. I can't remember. Maybe it was the whole record in general. Yeah, the whole album in general was his most prized possession he had written, Bob Dylan. And just to go, because Bob Dylan, is funny, in the beginning of the movie, he had mentioned that Johnny Cash was one of his inspirations. So to have Johnny Cash say his second album is his most prized possession must have been a huge inspiration for Bob Dylan at this point. And then we go through his career. He starts getting famous. He starts getting world famous at this point, and he kind of transitions. He starts getting a little bit. There's a transitional period, right? He becomes super famous. He obviously doesn't like being that famous. We can tell. It bothers him. He starts trying to get away from people, and all the people trying to force him into what they wanted him to sound like. And the more that happened, the more you could see he started getting into the anti sort of establishment, anti going against the record companies, going against the label, going against what his people wanted him to be, and trying to branch out of folk music. That was one big thing about the middle of the movie or so, is he really wanted to branch out of folk music and make folk music not the only thing he did. He wanted to start getting into a bit of the rock and roll scene, which was getting big. He started listening to the Kinks and the Beatles and other people like that. And he really wanted to branch out the music that he started to do. And as he did that, as he got a bit edgier for the labels, they started hating on him more and more. And they started getting really, really mad at him for doing it. And then he found there's this one critical scene in a movie where he was walking at night, and he goes randomly into this one bar because he met this guy in an elevator. And the guy said, he asked the guy, "Where are you going?" And he goes, "I'm playing in a group in a bar in some restaurant." And so he just wandered into that restaurant. Lo and behold, and he sees this guy just having a blast on the drums and the guitar, and they're playing in this small little restaurant, just having fun and playing some rock and roll music. And he just sat there in the corner with the shades on, loving it. And you could tell he was enjoying it. And all of a sudden, this one chick just screams, "That's Bob Dylan!" And he just has to get the fuck out. He gets punched in the face as he's leaving, and he gets rescued by the guy who actually invited him, I don't think he invited him, who told him what he was doing. And he got rescued out. And from that point on, that guy ended up actually becoming his session guitarist for his next few albums, which is just a crazy way. I didn't know that, but it was a crazy way he found that. He ended up actually using all that inspiration that he saw to go out and have all these different session musicians from around the world be brought in as his traveling session band with him. And all these different people, from a pianist to a guitarist to a drum, every different type of musician. And he started recording. That was right about the time, I believe, he started recording Highway 61 Revisited, where he started, experimenting with the electric guitar and different sounds, and getting heavier and a bit more into rock sound and things like that. And this was at the exact same time when the folk festival was about to happen, when he was recording Highway 61. And the folk festival, the big folk festival, was getting big because of Bob Dylan. He was the reason it blew up to where it was. And all his managers and all the folk festival people didn't want him to do any of the electric music. They didn't want him to do any of the new sound he had been experimenting and trying with. So as he did, they basically came up to him and said, he was the last, his session for that folk festival was the last session of the day, the last one of the last day. And they basically requested that he did not play his new recording music, and he got really offended by this. And so what he did was he actually went out, and the first 3 songs he played were with his new jam band, his new session band, all on electric guitar, all from his new Highway 61 record that wasn't even out yet. Oh, sorry, no? Am I getting that part wrong?
Yeah, there was some stuff from
Okay. There were some other songs that are, but he ended with Like a Rolling Stone, and then as he leaves, they're all throwing, stuff at him. The folk festival people, the crowd was annoyed. They were very angry, and as he leaves, he actually gets Johnny Cash walks up to him and says, "You can't end like that. They want you to have one more," and he hands him an acoustic guitar. I don't remember what song he played at the very end. He played one last.
It's All Over Now, Baby Blue.
There we go. It's All Over Now by Baby Blue. He played it, and the crowd got right back into it, just like they would have if he had just done folk music the whole time. And he was very upset. He was very upset about this, but he also felt like he had done a huge service to music by not just submitting himself to the will of these executives and all the people that had wanted him to just stay in one genre and play that thing. And from that point on, the movie sort of ends and trails off with him releasing Highway 61, talking about how influential and how iconic it was, and how many more albums he would go on to produce throughout his career. So that's a quick summary of the movie. Obviously, there's a lot of finer details and scenes that make it important on his life, but as a quick summary, I feel like that's pretty important. Let me read chat real quick. Literally so gutted I have to wait another 3 odd weeks or so. I heard that Australia did have to wait 3 or like a month after. That sucks. That's crazy. Hi, Cosmic. How are you? How did Timothy do? We're about to talk about that, but I thought he did great. Dylan never really called himself a folk musician. He was really against people like, I don't know, like category. Yeah, and that's the big part of his movie. This movie is how he really hated being put into a category by anyone.
He just didn't like being stuck in a box.
Exactly.
And they covered that very well.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, he definitely earned the respect for this one. It was rumored he had been held back from going out there and cutting the wires. So that, yeah, there's a scene. I don't know if you've seen it, Cosmic, but there's a scene where it shows exactly that, and it's pretty cool. I don't want to spoil it too much if you haven't seen it, but you get, it's a very intense scene. All right, well, that's the review of that's the overall movie. Let's give our opinions and reviews now. Let's start with our guests. Why not, Alex? What did you think of A Complete Unknown?
I thought A Complete Unknown was a pleasant surprise. Like I said in the opening, I was kind of expecting this to be a bit average, maybe carried by Timmy's performance, but I found it to be a very well-rounded movie, both in terms of the script, the direction, the performances. A lot of biopics today will use, they're like super metaphorical, super artsy, and this was very sleek. This was traditional. This was Hollywood, but it was very well made. It was very entertaining, and it kept its momentum throughout. And I'll say that up front, I'm a very casual Bob listener. I don't know the details of his career, but this got me super interested. This got me to throw on Freewheelin' as I was driving home. So, yeah, all the performance scenes are great that were recorded live, and overall, I think it's just a great balance between making something that's commercial and widely appealing, and also actually does dive deep enough into Bob. So to just give something on the off the top, I enjoy it quite a bit.
There you go. I wanted to back up something you said, because you talked about how like all the scenes we record live. What I thought was awesome was he did the singing himself, all of it. He didn't use fantastic. Any audio adjusters. It was no pitching. It was Timothy, and apparently I looked it up afterwards because I was very curious. Apparently Timothy had spent over a year and a half just listening to Bob Dylan's discography and practicing that voice and getting it down to as close as he could possibly get it. And I thought that's just super impressive for a young actor to dedicate himself to that.
Yeah, something I learned actually is that the whole band was recorded live. It wasn't like they did the instrument, so they couldn't splice takes together because it was just done freely. So they were all these really long takes, long performances, and I couldn't even tell. It sounded like it was done in a studio to me. So
yeah, it was incredibly well recorded too. And from what I heard, people were saying that worked on the movie that it felt like a concert, and they were just recording a concert. Obviously,
Yeah.
they had their. Yes, he was on the guitar and harmonica too. He did all of it himself. I mean, I'm sure it took a couple takes. I'm not saying he went out there and first taked everything, but everything he did, all the music he did that Timothy did was all himself with no audio people coming in and changing it. So that's just impressive to me because he's not a musician, he's an actor. So to be able to learn that skill is impressive. All right, Noah, what do you think? What was your review of A Complete Unknown?
Yeah, it went above and beyond my expectations, especially Timmy. I think this was my first time watching a movie with him,
Oh,
and yeah, he did really good. I think he did more than he needed to for the role in a good way. Like learning to play guitar and harmonica, that was really good.
He went
Yeah.
stupid on that harmonica.
yeah,
He
that's
was
how
crazy.
harmonica went crazy.
And I mean, vocally, I don't think they could have gotten someone who could have replicated his voice any better because of how unique it is, and he did a really good job. There's only a couple of times where it sounded a little off.
Yeah, there's a couple moments here and there where I was like, it was a little slip up, but I think it was just because he was showing more emotion in those parts in my opinion.
Yeah, but overall, he did a good job. But yeah, it was a more, uh, biopic wise, it felt a little bit more unique than like the traditional. They went into some things I was not expecting them to go into as in depth, like how, well, his good songwriting and talking about things culturally significant
Yeah.
in his songs really brought him into fame. I thought that was very important. And of course, the electric stuff.
Oh yeah, that was
He
huge.
took some artistic liberties, like he didn't debut the electric stuff at that big festival, but the reaction was the same regardless. But that made sense for the climax of the movie. It was
Sure.
understandable.
I don't think they were trying to say that he debuted it then. I think a lot of the studio people knew that he was in electric and been recording
band.
electric for a while, but I think that was like it was like because he had been like the main folk festival guy for the last few years and had made that folk festival so big and popular, for them to hear him do something different was like a big deal.
Yeah, that scene was funny. There's a couple people in the audience actually enjoying it.
Yeah, we had people as well. Okay, yeah, that's. I mean, I think we're all in accord on that because I think one of the honestly best things about Timothy's performance was he got a lot of the quirkiness of Bob Dylan down. A lot of the really weird interactions he would have with people because he wasn't a normal guy by any stretch. He was he was deeply obsessed with music. And they tried to portray that as best as they could, his obsession. I mean, he show up to Joan Baez's, I don't know if this is historically accurate, but at least this is what they showed. He showed up to Joan Baez's hotel room basically in the middle of the night, started rocking down the hallway, not knowing which room she was in, knocking on every single door till one of them answered. And when she did answer, they spent the night together. And then midway through the night, he just gets up on her guitar and just starts playing starts writing music right then and there in a hotel room for a tour there right before their tour, like a night or two before their tour. And that's just weird. That's just weird. He's a funny guy. He's a weird dude. And then he gets kicked out because she was pissed at him for doing it. And understandably so. But he was just a weird guy who did things. One of the most underrated scenes that I noticed, I haven't really seen a whole lot of people talking about, and probably what I thought was the funniest scene was when Peter Seeger was on the local channel with just playing some folk music, and he was gonna hope to bring Bob Dylan out as a guest to just play some folk music, and instead he had to bring a substitute, and it's this blues guy from down in I think he said he was from Mississippi or Louisiana, one of the two, and he's like just the most funny guy ever. He's just talking a whole bunch of shit, and he's like they're on a local news channel, he's just cussing up a storm, and then Bob Dylan arrives and he walks up and he's trying to just listen to this guy play these Delta blues songs, and then Peter Seeger brings them in. He's like, no, you gotta play it. And he just starts playing with the blues guy, and he starts playing blues songs right along with him. They just start singing together. It was fucking awesome. But it also is something you totally would believe Bob Dylan would have done. I don't know if that actually happened. Maybe there's an actual footage of that, and maybe it's historically accurate. I'm not sure, but it was definitely just awesome seeing him go off with this blues guy and just start playing some music for the love of music, not because he felt like he had to or anything like that. He didn't. He came, he was invited there to play folk music, and he ended up strumming out with this blues guy for a couple minutes. That was just like such I guess a glimpse into what Bob Dylan was like as a person. So I thought that was awesome. I thought those were the tiny small things that they did really well. Was show off that. And like when he near the end, when he's at the folk festival, and the guy said, he tells one of the guys who's wearing that polka dot shirt that he looks like a clown, and then as he leaves, he's all mad and he puts on the clown shirt because he feels like a clown at that point, and he leaves with the clown shirt on. That was also just, I love that too. I think that was a nice small detail they had. But yeah. All right, so we talked about the movie. We talked about what our thoughts are on it. So now it's rankings time. Now I want 2 rankings from you guys, because I know, Noah, you're not a huge movie guy, but I know you've seen quite a few movies last year as well. But 2 rankings: 1, your ranking of the movie 1 to 10, and 2, your ranking of the movie of 2024. And I guess for people in Australia, it comes out in 2025, but for us, it was a 2024 film. So let's start with Alex. What do you got for the film, and then where does it rank in your films of 2024?
Well, actually, I got a couple more notes. I can do that.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. I wanted to point out. We kind of touched on it, but there is just a crazy large cast in this thing, right? We have
huge.
2 relationships. We got Johnny Cash popping up like an MCU cameo.
Yes.
Pete Seeger obviously throughout. And they all felt super realized to me. They all felt very natural. They popped up when they needed to. I'd say the movie's not perfect though. I did have a couple gripes.
Okay.
Really one main gripe.
Let me hear about it.
You mentioned it earlier, how in the back half they kind of start to focus on Bob being this they straight up call him a contrarian to his face. But as I was,
well, Joan Baez calls him an asshole. He's like, you're kind of an asshole, Bob.
he was definitely, maybe a little.
He turned off a lot of people.
Bit of the tism at times. I don't know, but he's a little mean. But yeah, they had his relationships up front, and in the back half of the movie, they focus on him sort of being this this figure who's resistant to being pinned down, and he is the complete unknown. He wants to change everything.
Yeah.
And that sort of starts to disrupt his relationship with Pete Seeger, which to that point had been sort of like a mentorship.
I see where you're going with this. Yep.
Yeah, and I thought that was just such a more interesting dynamic than what we were getting out of the 2 relationships, or even really like even Johnny Cash, because Johnny Cash was pretty much just like a cool older brother who showed up to
a mentored figure at the very end, but more so just to be like, fuck those guys, do what you want.
He kind of just egged them on, stuff he already wanted to do. He didn't really add a whole lot to Bob, but Pete was obviously the guiding force. And then when they had that split at the end where Pete wants him to,
do folk.
He wants to keep Bob from selling the light bulbs or whatever the analogy they used.
Yeah.
I just thought that was such an interesting conflict, and I almost want that to be the entire dramatic arc of the movie.
Yeah, the Pete Seeger relationship with him, as like, he brought him into the New York music club scene and got him the meetings with the studio people and brought him on, and for that relationship to sort of end with him going against Pete's wishes almost entirely was very, very unique.
Yeah, I'd love a sequel to see how they patch that up. I feel like
I feel like there's so much more of Bob Dylan's career you could do a sequel for.
You could show any 5-year
totally
span, in his life, and I'm sure it'd be a
absolutely.
lot to tell. But okay, for the ranking, so
yeah,
I am kind of a movie guy. I watch way too many movies.
Me and your boat, brother.
I wasted too many hours of my life this year. But I liked this quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably give it like 6.5 to 7 territory. Which maybe sounds harsh, but
6.5 to 7. Wow. Okay.
Because I'm always comparing movies to the GOATs, so
I see.
My ratings are rough.
Fair enough.
But and then for 2024, I got it like top 5.
Top 5.
I probably have Dune above this.
Damn, you've lowered your opinion since we watched it. I'm pretty.
I said
sure.
it was. I said it was top 5 out of the theater,
Okay.
and I think it's still around there.
Okay.
I probably have Dune above this. I probably have like a couple others above this, but
Damn.
it was very
okay.
good. It was a great. You know, this is like something you take the family out to. You
No,
know,
I
over the
wouldn't-
holiday weekend.
I would not do that. I feel like there's not a family built movie. I did not get that impression at all. There's a lot.
I thought
of,
this was pretty tame. I don't know. It's better than Nosferatu. I'm not taking the kids to Nosferatu.
I haven't seen that, so fair enough.
Oh, you didn't see it.
No, yeah.
His dongle.
when that popped up on screen, that was a jump scare. But yeah, I liked
you're
it.
giving a 6.5 to 7 out of 10. Damn.
Yeah, very respectable. Yeah.
Very respectable. Okay. Well, we're definitely going to disagree about that, but that's okay. All right, Noah. Final thoughts on the movie and your rankings.
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah. For a rating, I already said it. Well, not on video or anything, but I said I'd probably give it a 9. I felt very strongly about it, probably because I was already a pretty big fan of Bob Dylan. And I'm not into the real big nuances of movies just yet. Maybe my rating will change, but for now it's a 9.
9 out of 10.
Probably was the best movie of 2024 that I've seen.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. High praise from Noah. Fair enough. Okay, I did see someone in chat said, I think Tarney said that, or asked about the pacing of the movie. I thought the pacing was great. I thought it was great pacing.
Fantastic, especially through the first half.
Yeah.
And this is a long movie. This is like 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it's 2.5 hours. It's not short.
And the first half, at least, is fantastic. You don't even feel it at all.
No.
And then in the second half, you kind of get some information repeated, and it kind of stopped. But that first half, it flew by for me.
I feel like the second half was much more going into the drama of his personal like convictions at that point. It was less about like, oh, he's gonna get famous. Like, no, here's how the fame affected him. So it's
once
like,
it stops explaining things to you, it slows down a bit.
No, but the pacing to me was from. I mean, a lot of pacing revolves around how you start your movie and get into the main plot of it. And I thought they nailed that. Also, I just want to give a shout out to the Johnny Cash actor. I don't know his name. I forget it, but he was great. He was
fantastic.
Fantastic. Okay, yeah. My final thoughts were I would love to. I thought this was a fantastic. I thought it was a fantastic biopic. I thought it was a great movie. I would love to see. I think a sequel showing off the future relationship he had with Joan Baez and a lot of his managers, because I thought his manager was a very underrated character in this movie because he defended Bob quite a lot. He went to bat for Bob on everything. I mean, he was willing to, every decision Bob made, he was with him 100%, especially about the going electric thing and playing electric music and at the film festival, folk festival. I don't know why I keep saying film festival. At the folk festival, he was 100% behind his back. He wanted Bob to write his own original music from the start. Everything he did was for Bob Dylan's favor. So he's a great manager. I think we could see where his future career would have progressed with that, because I don't know if he kept him throughout his whole career. I don't know enough about that, but I think a sequel or some type of extra movie doesn't have to be as long, but just to show off maybe the next 10 years you could probably put in and show off really how his decision making in this movie and this stage of his career affected the rest of his career and what he chose to do with that and how he became iconic after that and where he got to. So I think that would be a really unique thing. As for this movie, I thought it was a fantastic biopic. I've seen, I think, 4 or 5 now, and this one to me is the best. I know there's a lot of contention about biopics. I know a lot of people love the Queen biopic or the Freddie Mercury biopic. I know there's a whole lot of fans of that one, but I think this one tops it easily. I've seen both, and I know a lot of people said the Freddie Mercury biopic was like the best one they'd ever seen. I know some people said the Brian Wilson biopic was the best one they'd ever seen. I've seen all those comments. Ultimately, I think this one tops them all so far. This is the best one I've ever seen. I gave this movie out of the theater. Alex was there with me. I gave it a 9.5 out of 10. I thought it was fantastic. That opinion has not changed. I still believe this is a 9.5 out of 10. The only things that I would change about this film would be probably some of the probably the way they ended it a little bit. It could have been I mean, it was dramatic, but they sort of left you on a cliff note of like what really happens afterwards. They might have been able to make it a bit more, I guess satisfying is not the right word, but like end it in a way to know like what really happened and how, because you don't really know how, like if you don't know anything about Bob Dylan, it doesn't really explain how iconic he became and what he took music to, how many people he influenced and blah, blah, blah. It says like, oh, he's known as one of the most influential artists of all, is one of the most influential albums of all time and how many albums he made. But ultimately, it doesn't really leave you knowing how big he became and what he was to music.
It just says he made
yeah.
50 albums.
It just says he made like 55 albums and like, ew, his next album that he released was one of the most influential, which is good to know. But like his status as like one of the greatest singers and writers in history is just unknown if you know nothing about him and just watch this. So that's probably the only thing I really downgrade this movie for. And yeah, of all the films, I thought Timothy was fantastic. I've seen him in this. I saw him in Dune 1 and 2, and obviously Dune 2 came out last year in 2024. But I saw him in that, and I saw him. I think this is his best performance he's given, in my opinion. I think this was one of the best, if not the best movie of 2024. It's like 1A, 1B to Dune Part 2, in my opinion. And I think that he probably delivered an Oscar-worthy performance. I think he probably will win an Oscar for Best Actor on this movie. I have a strong feeling he'll be nominated for it.
Certainly get nominated.
Yeah, he'll certainly get nominated. I think he'll probably get nominated for this one over his Dune performance. If they can't do 2, they'll probably put this one over it. And then in terms of like Best Picture, I think it'll be this and Dune will both get nominated for Best Picture. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if he won at all. I thought it was, one thing about this movie is like, you're making a movie about a artist. You would expect a soundtrack. They don't really use a soundtrack in this movie. It's mainly just Bob. Bob's music is the soundtrack. So, I mean, there's a couple scenes here and there where they have some background music playing, but for the most part, it's really just him. And they just let him play music and let Timothy do his thing as Bob Dylan, which was fantastic. So great cast, great direction of the movie. I thought everything was really, really well done. I'm sticking with my 9.5, and I call it, and in my opinion, that was the best film I watched last year. That came out last year, because I watched some better films last year, but that was the best one that came out last year. So yeah. All right, let me see, catch up on chat real quick. I agree. I'm sure he would be fun to be around, though, especially in 1966. I mean, that was the 2 years after Highway 61, right?
66, that's 1 year.
1 year, okay. Well, I don't know exactly what he did in his personal life after he got globally iconic level. So I would. That's why one of the reasons why I like to see a sequel to it is to know what it is. Know how his personal life became even more insane, because I know What's up?
One massive thing they missed in the movie.
What's that? Go ahead.
Not a single mention of drugs or no doobies lit.
He was straight edge. He
Little inaccurate.
kept it clean.
I mean, was
Ripped
he
a lot of cigs,
was he
though. My
into?
God.
Well, yeah, the cigarettes were every scene. Was he into drugs even at that stage in his career?
A lot of weed.
Okay, all right. Maybe the cigarettes were the symbolization of
Very
weed.
nice, man.
I don't know. I guess they probably didn't find that super important in the movie for what they were going for. But I bet it was super important to him. I mean, if he had the hairstyles throughout the movie were kind of they're pretty wild. He really let that shit just flow where it wanted to. I'm glad to know it was actually good. Yeah, it was very good. I think we all agree. I think for a biopic, it was very, very good. No, you don't think a sequel would be very good? I think you could do a sequel for this. I think it just has to be very specifically toned and set, and probably a little shorter, and just explain how his decisions in this movie affected the rest of his career, specifically the next 10 years where he would become like globally famous and stuff.
Let Timmy age a bit, and then let him come back to the 70s.
Yeah. Give him like 10 years or so. Maybe not even 10 years, but like 5 to 10 years, and you could do a sequel here.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
They could start the movie right after his worst album, right after Self Portrait.
Well, I know you want to see Blonde on Blonde on there.
That came out a year after Highway 61.
I know, so that would be right after. the movie ended pretty
I
much.
want to see them talk about Blood on Tracks.
Blood on Tracks. That's your new favorite Dylan track record, right?
Yeah, I've realized that's the true best one.
Hot take.
Hot take. Most important question: did they include anything at all about Eddie Sedgwick? I feel like they said that name, but I don't remember why. Maybe I'm on crack.
Someone he dated? I don't think so.
If it was someone he dated, they didn't. There was only 2 women that in the movie.
Yeah, it was just
that
Sylvie and
mattered.
Joan.
Yeah. So probably not. Maybe it came later on. I don't know. I was actually surprised. I thought Sylvie was going to be sort of a one-off girlfriend. I did not realize the level of influence that she had on him, and how much pull she had on him throughout his early career. I thought he treated her poorly, obviously, but like he clearly cared enough about her to even like decide randomly right the day before the Monterey Folk Festival to go in and pull up to her apartment and say, "Hop in, I'm going to or Newport Folk Festival," and to say, "Hop in, I'm going to Newport," and then she actually did it, which was surprising to me. But yeah, those are the type of things you get with Bob Dylan, I guess. He's just a weird dude. This scene, it was just on the trailer right there, but when him and Joan Baez were on tour in that massive arena, and she started playing Howling in the Wind, and he's like, no, pick something else. And then she started playing, she's like, oh, everyone came for this, Bob, let's play it. And he goes, I don't care what everyone came. Did everyone come for this? Do you see a track list? I don't see a set list. No, we pick a new one. And she goes, no, I'm gonna play Howling in the Wind and he starts calling out his manager in the top like right of the stage, and then he just walks off the stage and she starts playing it himself. And he makes up some BS about his guitar needing a doctor or something. I mean, I have no idea if that's like some story somebody found out about Bob Dylan, or if there's actual evidence that happened. Either way, it's fucking hilarious. I thought it was a great scene. And yes, he took amphetamines and weed because, he introduced the Beatles to weed. And I have heard about that story. Yeah, it's pretty wild. All right. Well, I think we covered all our bases here. I think we all gave an opinion. I think everyone basically liked the movie. At the very least, we all liked the movie. And if you have not seen it, especially for our friends down under, if you have not seen it, go watch it when it comes out, because it's definitely worth it, especially if you're a fan or even enjoy Bob Dylan's music or cared about his career at all. And for the people who I know, because we have a lot of people who came to watch our trailer reviews and reactions to the Bob Dylan movie who basically put us on blast for not knowing anything about his personal life at all. This is why we didn't know anything about his. This is exactly why we're doing this review and reviewing the movie, because we learned a lot about his personal life and the influences he had and the people in his life and all that. That opened my eyes a lot. I did not realize all the stuff that he went through, especially at the start. So it's always good to have these type of films to watch and see about. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, or maybe leave a like down below and hit subscribe. Hey, go check out our boy Alex's Spotify. Go follow him on there. He's putting out EP2 coming soon, right?
Not very soon.
Not gonna say it's coming out like Kanye, right?
Yeah, I'll give the tentative, just when it drops.
When it drops, it drops. There you go. And we might even have a specific little guest feature on it. I don't know. Pointing up. We might. We don't know yet. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Follow us on Twitter. Links in the description below. We tweet out when we go live. And hopefully the next one, Cole will be back. Outside of that, leave a like down below, hit subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. All right, chat. Thank you guys for coming out. And yes, he was with Eddie for a little while. Okay, well, I don't think she was in the movie at all, but that might have happened afterwards, so probably did. But thank you guys for coming out. We appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully, Cole should be back next week at some point. So, yeah, maybe we'll have Alex fill in one more time. I don't know. Depends on his availability and what we need to record. So outside of that, thank you guys, and we'll see you in the next stream. Have a great night.